Imagine your own children, the people you spent 20 years of your life sacrificing every dream and every penny for, completely ignoring you on Mother's Day, not even a single text message or a 5-minute phone call, only to show up at your doorstep a week later acting like nothing happened because they want a massive handout of your hard-earned money. That is exactly what happened to me, and let me tell you, the look on their faces when I finally said no was something I will never forget for the rest of my life. Was I wrong for finally closing my heart and my wallet after years of being treated like a human ATM? Or would you have done the same thing if your own flesh and blood treated you like a stranger until they needed a check? To understand how I got to this breaking point, I have to take you back to the very beginning, long before the gray hair and the lonely dinners, back to when I thought I was building a legacy of love and family. My name is Sarah, and at 55, I never expected to be sitting in a silent house feeling like an outsider in my own children's lives. My husband, David, was the light of my life. We were high school sweethearts who worked side by side to build a small construction business from the ground up. We weren't millionaires, but we were comfortable. David always said, "Sarah, as long as the kids are happy and we have each other, we have everything." When David passed away unexpectedly 10 years ago from a sudden heart attack, my world collapsed. I was left with a grieving heart, a business to manage, and 2 teenagers who were lost without their father. Jason was 18 then, just starting to find his way, and Mia was 14, in the thick of those difficult high school years. I made a silent promise to David's memory that day. I would make sure they never felt the sting of lack. I would be both parents. I would give them the world. And that's where I think I made my biggest mistake. I started compensating for their father's absence with money and things. If Jason felt sad, I bought him that guitar he wanted. If Mia was struggling at school, I took her on a shopping spree. I thought I was healing their wounds, but I was actually planting the seeds of entitlement. As the years went by, the demands grew larger. When Jason got into a prestigious university in another state, I didn't tell him that the tuition was more than I could comfortably afford. I just worked longer hours at the office, taking on more projects than a woman my age should handle. I wanted him to have that college experience he kept talking about. Every time he called from school, it wasn't to ask how I was doing. It was always because his account was low or he needed money for a networking trip. That looked a lot like a spring break party on social media. I sent the money anyway, telling myself he was just young. Then came Mia. She was always my little princess, and she knew it. When she graduated and decided she wanted to be an influencer and a socialite, I funded her lifestyle. I paid for the designer clothes, the expensive camera gear, and eventually the wedding. Oh, the wedding. That was 3 years ago, and I am still paying off the small loan I had to take out because Mia insisted on a venue that looked like something out of a fairy tale. Her husband, Kyle, is a nice enough guy, but he's just as happy as she is to let me foot the bill for their aesthetic life. Throughout all of this, I noticed a pattern. The more I gave, the less I mattered as a person. I became the emergency fund. Our Sunday dinners, which used to be a tradition, slowly became too busy for that, Mom. My birthday became a quick text message or a last-minute flower delivery that I usually ended up paying for on the joint account anyway. I felt the distance growing, but I was too afraid to speak up. I didn't want to be the nagging mother. I wanted them to want to spend time with me. This year, leading up to Mother's Day, I felt a deep, nagging ache in my chest. Maybe it was the milestone of 10 years since David passed, or maybe I was just tired of the silence in my house. I decided I would make a real effort. I didn't want a gift. I didn't want a card from the drugstore. I wanted my family. A week before the big day, I sent a group text. "Hey kids, I'm planning a big Mother's Day lunch at the house. I'm making Dad's favorite roast and that lemon tart you both love. It would mean the world to me to have you both here." Jason's reply came hours later. "Might be able to swing by, but I've got a lot of work. I'll let you know." Mia didn't even reply. She just liked the message. I told myself it was fine. They were busy adults with busy lives. On Mother's Day morning, I woke up with such hope. I spent 4 hours in the kitchen. I polished the silver, where David and I got for our wedding. I bought fresh lilies, my favorite. I sat on the porch, watching the street, waiting for Jason's truck or Mia's sedan to pull into the driveway. 12:00 p.m. came and went. I figured they were just running late. 2:00 p.m. The roast was starting to dry out. I called Jason. It went straight to voicemail. I called Mia. No answer. By 4:00 p.m., the silence in the house was so loud it was deafening. I felt like a fool. I walked over to my laptop and opened Instagram, a habit I've developed just to see what my kids are doing. And there it was, a post from Mia, posted just 30 minutes prior. She was at a high-end brunch spot downtown with Kyle and his mother. They were all wearing matching pastel outfits, holding champagne glasses, laughing. Her caption read, "Celebrating the strongest woman I know. Happy Mother's Day to my amazing mother-in-law." My heart stopped. She wasn't too busy. She was just elsewhere. Then I checked Jason's stories. He was at a lake with a group of friends, grilling steaks and drinking beer. Not a word to me, not a Happy Mother's Day, Mom, nothing. I sat at that table, surrounded by food for 6 people, and I finally let the reality sink in. I was their bank, not their mother. I cried until my eyes were swollen shut. Then I did something I had never done. I didn't call them to complain. I didn't send an angry text. I packed up every single bit of that expensive food, drove it to the downtown shelter, and watched as people who had truly lost everything ate my cooking with tears of gratitude. That night, I made a decision. The following week was quiet. I didn't reach out. I wanted to see how long it would take for them to notice I wasn't chasing them. By Thursday, the Mother's Day guilt, or more likely, the empty wallet syndrome, finally kicked in. My phone started buzzing. Jason called 3 times. Mia sent 5 texts. "Hey Mom, sorry about Sunday, lost track of time. Mom, pick up. I need to ask you something." I didn't answer. I went to the spa. I went to a movie. I was reclaiming my peace. Finally, on Saturday, they both showed up at my house at the same time. They didn't even knock. They just used their old keys and walked in. They didn't have flowers. They didn't have a belated card. They walked in like they were entering a hotel. Jason went straight to the fridge, and Mia sat on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. "Mom, why haven't you been answering? We were worried," Jason said, though he didn't sound worried at all. He sounded annoyed. I walked into the living room and just looked at them. I didn't offer them tea. I didn't ask how their week was. I just stood there. After a few minutes of awkward silence, the real reason for their visit came out. Jason told me he had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to buy into a tech startup, but he needed $15,000 by Monday. Mia jumped in, saying that since Jason was getting help, she needed $10,000 because her influencer career required a new wardrobe and a trip to Europe to build her brand. They talked as if the money was already theirs, as if I was just a custodian of their inheritance. So, that is the situation I was in. I was sitting across from my own children who had completely discarded me on a day meant to honor mothers, only for them to show up a few days later asking for $25,000 as if I owed it to them. Before I tell you what I did next and the absolute chaos that followed, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have given in one last time to keep the peace, or would you have done what I was about to do? I looked at Jason, who was already looking at his watch, and then at Mia, who was checking her reflection in her phone screen. I asked them very quietly, "Did you enjoy your Sunday?" Jason stammered, "Oh, yeah, it was okay. Work was crazy." I turned to Mia. "And you, how was the brunch with Kyle's mother?" Her face went pale for a split second before she regained her composure. "Oh, you saw that. It was just a quick thing, Mom. Don't make it a big deal." I felt a coldness wash over me that I had never felt before. I told them, "It isn't a big deal, Mia, because from now on, nothing involving you two is my big deal anymore. The answer is no. No to the startup, Jason. No to the trip, Mia. And no to ever using your keys to walk into my house unannounced again." The room went silent. Then the explosion happened. Jason started yelling, saying I was being petty and vindicative over one missed holiday. He told me I was hoarding the money Dad worked for. Mia started her usual routine, the fake tears, the dramatic gasps. She told me I was a terrible grandmother to the kids she didn't even have yet, and that I was destroying her future. I didn't flinch. I told them that the money they were talking about was the money David and I earned through sweat and sacrifice, and that I was no longer going to use it to fund people who didn't even have the decency to send a text message on Mother's Day. I told them I was selling the big house, moving into a smaller condo by the beach, and that I had already booked a 3-month cruise around the Mediterranean. I told them that if they wanted money, they could do what their father and I did. They could work for it. The scene was ugly. Jason called me names I never thought I'd hear from my son. Mia told me she never wanted to speak to me again. They slammed the door so hard a picture of the three of us on the hallway wall fell and shattered. I stood there in the quiet, looking at the broken glass. It was over. The aftermath has been a whirlwind. My sister called me, crying, saying I was breaking the family apart, and that I should just apologize and give them a smaller amount to smooth things over. My mother-in-law, David's mother, actually called me and told me she was proud of me, which was the only validation I needed. Jason and Mia have blocked me on everything. They didn't show up for my birthday last month, but for the first time, I didn't care. I spent my birthday in Greece, drinking wine and watching the sunset with new friends who know me as Sarah, the vibrant woman, not Sarah, the ATM. I realized that by always giving, I was robbing them of the chance to grow up, and I was robbing myself of a life. I lost my children that day, but I found myself, and honestly, I think I got the better end of the deal. At the end of the day, family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, gratitude, and showing up when it matters, not just when there's a check to be signed. I hope my story serves as a wake-up call to anyone out there who is being taken for granted. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to put yourself first. Like this video if you were on my side and think I did the right thing. Subscribe for more stories like this, and please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I go too far, or did I do what had to be done? I'll see you all in the next story.